Whoa, 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 whoa. How much am I going to have to pay now? I remember a client of mine, as we were talking about required minimum distributions. That's a mouthful, RMD for short, and that's what I'll call it from here on out. But when we were talking about the RMD, she had heard about it, but was really unsure of exactly what that meant or how it impacted her financially. And she was getting close to retirement age, and we were looking at some projections, and it looked like she was going to have 50, 60, $70,000 a year of RMDs that she was going to have to take, which in essence almost doubled her income, or was more than half of her current income. And so those are big numbers based on what she saved into her 401k and IRA. And that was causing her some concern, because when the income comes out of a traditional IRA, you have to pay taxes on all of it. There's no getting around that. And so we started talking about some ways of potentially reducing the RMD, or minimizing it, if possible. And so here's what I told her. Here are a few things that I went over with her. First, we have to understand, uh, when does the RMD start and how is it calculated. So the RMD starts at your required minimum distribution age, and that's determined by the IRA, by Congress. It's set up forth in the IRS. It used to be 70 and a half, and then it got bumped to 72, and then it's 73 for anybody born before 1960. Anybody born in 1960 and later, it's now 75. And so what that means is that at that year, by April 1st, the year after you turn that age, you have to take out the RMD amount. And so the RMD amount, there's a table, and it is based on your life expectancy. If you have a spouse that's 10 years less than you, 10 years old less than you, then you need to take that. There's a special table for that. So you can look at the IRS website for that. But in essence, it starts off around 4% and increases every year. And there's a table. It basically, you take the value of your account at the end of the year, the previous year, so December 31st, the year previous, and you divide it by the amount, the table amount, and then that gives you the dollar amount that you need to take out. And so for this client, we were looking at, I think, something around $59,000 she was going to have to take out in that year. So that made her jaw drop a little bit, because that's, at a 20% tax bracket, that's a lot of money in taxes that she was going to have to pay. And usually when you take money out of an IRA or 401k, you can have the company withhold the taxes, so you receive the net amount. You don't have to actually stroke a check to the IRS yourself. But that's how it's calculated. It's based on the IRS tables. Now, the second thing that we wanted to go through or talk through with her was, how do we potentially mitigate or minimize the taxes associated with an RMD? Well, you can use what's called a qualified charitable distribution. So if you do any sort of charitable giving at all, and you have an IRA, this isn't for a 401k, but an IRA. Now, if you have a 401k, you do have the option to move to an IRA, but there's lots to consider. There's pros and cons to that. But one of the pros of having an IRA is that you can do what's called a qualified charitable distribution. And that's where you basically give money directly from the IRA to the charity or church or nonprofit of your choice. So that's one way to potentially minimize the taxes associated with it. Another way is to force the taxes out earlier. So if you're not at RMD age, you can look at doing what's called a Roth conversion. So, in essence, you're moving money from your traditional IRA or 401k into a Roth IRA. Yes, you pay the taxes on it that year, but let's say you're 63 and retired and your income is low, you're maybe able to fill up your entire income bracket by doing a Roth conversion. So, not all of your account, but maybe some of it. And then that way you pay taxes at that effective rate, and then you lock in the growth from there, would then grow tax free for you. And then the nice thing is that then that amount you do not have to pay RMDs on later. So this is something that we really look at with clients that are retiring, in their 60s, looking down the road at minimum distributions. We want to try to look at their overall tax ramifications, and that's where sometimes Roth conversions can come into play. So that's two strategies to potentially minimize the tax impact around the RMDs. A third thing to consider, which is a less common vehicle, but it is an option. Is what's called a qualified longevity annuity contract. It's a type of annuity. Annuity can be a four-letter word for some people, and rightfully so. There's lots of buyer beware around them, but some companies offer a structure where, in essence, you're able to put in up to $100,000 into this annuity, and then that is not a taxable event, and it basically defers the RMD that's due out to age 85, rather than having to take it at age 75. So it gives you a 10-year window outlook. And the reason why Congress did this is so that you have some money set aside for aging. And so that's what that type of product is for. Again, it's kind of a not as often used strategy due to the qualifications and it all. But that's anyways, it's a possibility to consider. So that's kind of the options that I talked through with her when it came to trying to look at her RMD for her to understand what it was and some strategies to potentially consider using when it comes to the RMD. I hope you found that helpful. If you are looking at the RMD or haven't even considered it, but now you're thinking, oh man, what should I do? Feel free to reach out. Happy to chat. I meet with folks face to face here in the Central Florida area in my office in Winter Garden, or virtually across the country, and I'd be happy to help. My name is Kyle Newell. I hope you have a great day and you take good care. Bye bye.